Sigal, many boards say technology is everyone's responsibility, right? Which can end up meaning that it's no one's responsibility. So, in your experience, what governance structure actually works? Is it full board? Is it a dedicated committee or a shared sort of ownership? And what oversight practices most improve outcomes?
Yeah, so you're right. When it's everybody's responsibility, sometimes nobody's responsibility. I think the best structure is a hybrid structure. The full board ownership when technology is a strategic topic, for example, AI adoption, or if you have digital business models, or when you talk about major capital allocation towards the company growth or customer service. And then I do think you need a dedicated committee, could be an expanded audit risk committee, it could be a technology committee, but a dedicated committee to do more deep oversight. If you think about cybersecurity, data privacy, compliance, as system resilience, as those relates to technology, I think those should be dealt with a dedicated committee because then you can do more deep dives. Then you have more ownerships. You can do side committees. For example, if you do a tabletop exercise on cyber or a specific capital for major upgrade, I think you can always augment with creating subcommittees. But if the full board think about the strategic value of technology and the audit risk committee think about the in-depth risk component of technology, that will be a good structure, in my opinion. Yeah, you also ask about practices that can improve outcomes. I think one practice is to have a technology person on the board, or at least somebody that can challenge management intellectually around technology. I think it's important to have a clear KPI around technology initiatives and do regular deep dives around technology and where technology is actually adding value and improving outcomes.
Directors are flooded with dashboards on cybersecurity, AI, data privacy, and digital investment. What are the handful of metrics or questions that really tell you whether management is on top of technology risk? And which reports do boards spend too much time on?
So I think board should really focus on matrices that indicate capability and resilience. And don't spend too much time on matrices that are activity related or don't have risk and outcome indicators. So I'll give you an example. For example, mean time to detect and mean time to restore, those important metrics, because you want to know, you cannot prevent every issue or every breach or every system failure, but you can absolutely know how long does it take us to find an issue and how long does it take us to recover from it. And that's important to know if the organization is dynamic and learning quickly. You want to know if the most important data, the crown jewels of the company, are protected. And how are we protected that? Because not everything is the same around the organization, and you want to know that the intellectual property, the customer data is covered and not open to compromises. You want to ask about cyber simulations, tabletop exercises, how often do we do them, get the board involved in doing them, and make sure that you focus on the learnings from those incidents, ransomware incidents, and so on. You want to know the learnings from those and what are we doing differently after doing those simulations. And another one that I think is a good one is to understand the tech debt, because companies that have too much money of their technology budget invested in just keep the lights on and don't have enough money to innovate are over time are going to fall behind and not meet customer demands for innovation and maybe even fall behind competitors. So again, don't focus on volumetrics and don't focus on red, yellow, green dashboards and why project is late. Focus on where is the added value. Where do we learn and how do we become better? So just for example, questions that board members can ask, where are we most vulnerable today? And how do we know about it? Um, what, how AI can materially disrupt our business? What is the competition doing that we are not doing? And what are the technology investments that we are putting forward that will make us more competitive?
Very, very useful set of questions there. And so let's talk about digital transformation. Digital transformation often requires moving faster than a board's traditional risk posture is comfortable with. How should boards recalibrate risk appetite for technology initiatives without drifting into recklessness? And what guardrails have you seen work in that area?
Yeah, I think boards are changing because technology is moving so much faster and it's becoming such a big piece of the company's strategy towards growth, competitiveness, market share, and operational excellence and cost efficiency. So boards are changing how they think about recalibrating the risk appetite. Traditionally, boards view risk as something that you need to minimize or avoid. And, like you mentioned, when you try to implement technology, failing to act or moving too slowly is often bigger risk than, not doing anything at all. So we need to think about where is best to take the risk, not how do we avoid it. If companies and boards can think about where should we take risk and how should we take that risk? Should we be aggressive on customer facing innovation, for example? Should we be more aggressive on developing new products for our customers? And where should we be more conservative? Maybe we need to be more conservative in cyber and resiliency, right? So I think a clear definition of risk appetite is important. And the thinking about how do we optimize the risk is important. It is definitely a mindset shift. Now you ask about the guardrails that work. So clear risk appetite is one of them. Doing post-mortem on major initiatives. What was the risk that we have taken? What worked? What didn't work is important. Doing independent validation, maybe the board wants to hire an outside consultant to understand if it's a major initiatives or to understand how AI can disrupt the company product or disintermediate the company's solutions and what can the company do. So get some outside experience as well. Definitely do testing, resiliency testing, get the board involved in those results before any major implementation or scaling. And, I think the best thing for boards is to define innovation like tech startups, VCs define innovation with stages, small stages, so you don't get full budget for the full initiatives all at once, but you do get stages based criteria, and based on results, you decide do we fund more or not. And I think board can actually help a lot with forcing management to think in smaller size bites as opposed to doing something that is multi-year and you're not going to see the outcome of results in the same fiscal year. I think small bites are better. So, and that's where board can implement some discipline around that.
You mentioned a little bit about this in your previous discussion, but when you look across the technology issues boards are facing today, where do you think it is that boards can add the most value? And where do boards most often wish maybe that they had acted a little differently?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think boards are good at taking a high level view and challenging management. Sometimes management is so caught up in the day to day. So when you have a constructive challenge on scope of the technology, and that's what I mentioned before, prioritization. How do you make sure you break a project into small bites? How do you focus on the most important things that will add to outcome and will impact your customer value proposition? That's where boards can really challenge. They can also make sure that the right talent is in place. They can add value by ensuring that the company actually has the skills to pull off a major initiatives around technology. Do we have the right engineering talent to build it? Do we have the right partners that we are partnering with, third-party partners? Do we have we done an RFP around the major options and pick up the right one? And why did we pick one vendor versus another? So making sure that we have the talent to pull that off, focusing on also the change management. I think many times, and now I'm talking as somebody who ran many large transformations, many times we focus too much on the technology and not enough on the change management. And especially with AI, people need to adopt the AI in order for it to continue learning and be better at what it does, especially those AI agents. So you need to make sure that we focus on the change management. How do we change the process to make sure the technology is adopted and adding value? And what do we have in place to change the culture of how the organization is using the technology? And then the same thing goes for customers. How do we change our customer behavior to make sure that the technology is actually really adding value to our customers and we are becoming more competitive with a better customer experience? Now, you also ask about what boards wish they had done differently and how they have acted differently. I think too often boards are sorry that they haven't focused enough on the talent and the change management that is required for the large technology initiatives. And I think also boards are sorry that they haven't focused on reducing the tech debt because over time, having too much of the tech debt is impacting how much of the budget is really invested in innovation.